Welcome all here again on your wonderful show, Sankofa, with the two important guests that are with me, Mkhulu Buntu and Mkhulu Nsingiza. There's a picture of Mkhulu Nsingiza which I saw, and I will throw it back to my elder Buntu here. There's a picture I saw of an Egyptian image of a man with his right foot forward, and a woman with her hand around the man, and the other hand I can't remember where it's holding. But a beautiful picture, and someone put a nice capsule at the bottom there which read ancient methods of governance and rulership and leadership, whatever you want to call it. The man is walking in front, slightly ahead with his foot forward, but the woman actually has her hand on the man's ribs and holding him on and holding his other hand. And to me, that picture, I could write a million words to express the balance which we find in the greater Kemetic space.
Exactly,
And maybe as while we're thinking around of what has gone wrong, I think we also need to reflect at what used to be right, so that we can appreciate that and we can bring up our children to that. I just thought I'd bring up that. Let me throw it back to you.
I actually love what you're bringing up then. I'm just going to throw it back to you, Mkhulu Nsingiza. What was the understanding and practice of African male leadership in ancient Kemet?
You see, the picture you're describing is the female supporting. And according to Kemet and the philosophy that Ubabu Credo used to teach us, is that Oset, that we call Nomkubulwan, she's the custodian of the throne upon which the king sits.
Come on now. If I was in church, I would say, come on, preacher.
It's the custodian.
I can hear you in my spirit.
Yes. It's the custodian.
The king sits on a chair. The one who owns it is the woman.
Thank you.
I think we can close the show.
Yes, we're done.
So every man, sorry for punctuating.
Yes.
So every man needs to understand, I think that's quite key.
Yes.
That you sit on a chair, but that chair don't belong to you.
It doesn't belong to you. Because you were born by a female.
Oh, man.
The female energy brought you here. And, in following, what Okokobetu say, that we need to create resonance between what is above and what is below. The action of the Sirius star formation vis-a-vis our solar system. Sirius star formation energizes our
solar system.
Yes. Do you understand? So, and that is regarded as the female energy. So, Okokobetu always lived this, saying that says, as above, so is below. So, if
and
our sun...
Christians plagiarized it.
Yes.
Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Yes. So, our sun is, looked at as the male energy, but it gets its strength from the female. So that is why Okoko, always said to us, you could never be as a king without your mother.
Right.
So the mother is the custodian of the throne you are sitting on.
Right.
Which then gives respect to the female energy and the mother all the time. Yes.
Wow. So coming from such a beautiful and intricate and complex and way to work together, understanding your role as a man and as a woman, what do we say to men today? Maponga, you work with a lot of men and women, and we are both broken in so many ways, but many men, this sounds very beautiful the way we explain it, but how do we go back to that?
I'm a bit brutal when I come to dealing with men. I've said it and I'll say it again. You cannot give a man the land underneath his feet when he does not have the land between his ears. Yeah. And he does not own the land between his legs.
Sure. So
it speaks of your thought pattern, it speaks of your reproduction, and it speaks of your production. So the food that you find under the feet, where you must work with our hands, are we in control of the posterity, the continuity of that? are we in control of the mind? Hence, maybe this might sound like a cliche.
No, sure.
That maybe the software has been cankered to such an extent that
Exactly.
even if you give a man the estate, which is now the woman, where he must now reproduce himself, but he does not own his mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
Will he respect the door through which his seed must come?
Yeah.
Number 3, will he respect the ground from which he must feed his seed, governed by his mind?
Exactly. Yeah.
This interconnectedness for me becomes very, very intricate. And hence I will always say, there's a tribe up in North Africa, somewhere up, and some of them are found also in Asia, where at the beginning of the rain season, men go to the mountains and they go and dig holes in the ground.
Right.
And they stick their maleness
Reproductive organs.
into the ground, and they must spill semen into the ground. Only after the ground has been pregnant can they now go and start making the land pregnant to start plowing so that they can harvest. And I came up with a proverb that says there's no man who is allowed to get a woman pregnant before he has made the ground pregnant.
Wow. Wow. Sure. You know, Maponga, that's a very beautiful understanding of land, because sometimes even our understanding of land is corrupted and our relation to it is corrupted. But I still want to hear because there are men listening right now and saying that I want that. I want to understand the connection between the land in my mind, in my reproduction, and in the physical land within the family.
And by the way, just while you are there, these are the 3 spaces that I will always talk about. That if you're supposed to stand a man like this is the estate of the mind, the estate of reproduction, and this is the estate of the ground. So you still have it on your pointer there.
Yes, yes. So Mkhulu Nsingiza, do you see men being more ready to take this knowledge and this truth in, or are we still barricaded and blocked in our understanding?
We have no option unless we want to continue, the way we are going.
Right.
We have no option, and we have got to be relentless in terms of putting out this information out there.
Yeah.
Why? Because we are so unfortunate that our so-called leadership, because if you are, let's say, a developing nation, when you develop a nation, you put the right foundation for that nation,
right.
And so that that nation has that sense of
Grounding.
grounded. They are grounded with
Rooted.
their foundation.
Exactly.
When you go to China, China for almost 30 to 50 years or 20 years, something like that, they wouldn't allow foreign content to dominate their media space.
Sure.
Why? Because they were dealing with the mindset of their people, so that their people are proud of who they are.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is where you start as a leader.
Sure.
You put that foundation so that you develop that patriotism in the mind first.
Exactly.
But then if you have a leadership which is controlled by a Western philosophy, then we are in trouble.
Yeah.
We are so unfortunate. All over the continent is the same leadership. They aspire to be like colonizers.
Exactly.
But at the back they come and tell us these people are like this and that, but they act and behave like colonizers.
Sure.
There's no reason why the efforts that we are doing because this is the work of government.
Exactly.
What we are doing, it's supposed to be done by government. You go to China, you go to Israel, the government supports anything that develops, that cultural identity, especially because we are from a terrible period that sought to erase everything that is positive about us. So you take, control of an African country, but you want to rule it, according to the colonizer.
Right.
That is why we are in this mess that we are in. It's something that should be pushed by government.
Exactly.
They have no other option but to do this thing.
The drinking
so
champagne.
that we can be healed. The whole nation can be healed.
True.
Because all the time we'll be dealing with symptoms. Why? Because we are trying to find African solution within the Western confines of a system.
Sure.
Hey,
Wow. So we
I
have
was
we
saying-
have a
I was saying
national leadership.
They're going to be talking like this.
Exactly.
They are drinking champagne in the restaurant.
And wasting time.
In,
So we have a
up
leadership
the street.
that we can't trust because we know that they're not for us. But at the same time, and we said this in the beginning of this conversation as well, that leadership really starts at home or in the how you wake up to the world. But that has now been marked as a private zone. You're not supposed to go into any home and teach anybody anything. So where do we begin?
The hypocrisy that Mkhulu Nsingiza is talking about cannot be undermined. It is appalling. We had a way. I'm not embarrassed to say this. Maybe let me say it on national TV. My mother had a simple proverb. If you cannot hear through your ears, you're going to hear through your skin. Okay? Here is me today.
Sure.
I am what I am.
Sure.
I don't think I'm doing very well, but I'm doing fairly well. You come up on another generation and say, okay, the method that you Africans were using for bringing up your children, to bring up these fine guys, Mkhulu is here, can confirm to that. Don't do that anymore. But you must pay bail for your children who are in prison. You must now see what you can do about Nyaope. You must. But you're saying if you are hamstringing the parents in terms of even if you say you are going to use this form of psychology now of talking to your children, go to your room. You tell an African boy whom you found kissing a girl on the street, go to your room. And that's supposed to be punishment.
Think about what you did.
That's supposed to be punishment for an African child. I'm not saying violence is good.
No, I get
But has the government sat down to say, okay, we are changing the format of disciplining children? We noticed that the older parents used to beat up their kids. We no longer want to do that. You just wake up in the morning, one morning, the minister is announcing, it will no longer be acceptable that children must be what. And you leave the whole 52 million people holding their heads that, okay, now we have a new system here. How are you going to start dealing with parents? Number one, two, do we have the resources? Do we have the capacity? Even the psychological preparation to adapt to this new format that you are introducing. At the end of the day, parents just end up saying, hey, ingane zanamhlanje azinjani? Don't touch them, otherwise bazokubiza amapoisa. So the father would rather sit at the corner of the house and read his newspaper. Athi nawe mntanami uzosibonela ke nawe iphuma kanjani. You see for yourself how you end up with the whole streets collecting the failures of the home. Not because parents have failed, but because maybe in one way or the other, the government has tied their hands behind their backs that they must just look at their children. Some of them leave the house half dressed, almost naked. They want to go for metric dances. And hell knows, this metric dance, what happens. And they rock back home at 5:30 in the morning, drunk, and they can't even spell their names. There's supposed to be freedom for the children. And they're talking about a home. No, the government has become the home. They put poison in the screen for the children. They put poison in the classroom for the children. They put legislation in the courts for the parents. And they want the children. If I had power, I would put all the children in the train and send them to Cape Town to the government. And tell the government, you pay rent for them, you buy diapers for them, you send them to school. They are your children after all. They are not our children. Then you do what you want to do with the children. But that's the society we're living in, where the government has put its hand into the cookie jar far too deep, to an extent that the modern parent right now, we don't know what to do with ourselves as men. We don't know what to do with women. We don't know what to do with our children, later on even to do with ourselves. You want me to explain suicide now? A man sits there and feels like a useless piece of thing at the corner of his house. He can neither get the job. The wife is getting paid 3 times more. He cannot talk to his children. The children will point a finger at him. You cannot do me nothing. Try me, dad. Try me. See what I'll do to you. The man sits on his corner, eats his heart, finds a rope somewhere, or goes to the nearest pub there. Say, please give me double shots of whiskey, please. Let me just drown myself from this life that is full of trouble. You come home, then your wife is on your head with a finger. You stupid fool! All you know is just to drink. And children, and we are not sincere to say what has driven the society of manhood to such a low grading of civilization.
No, I think when it's the violation. These leaders are violating our human rights because they are not giving us full expression. I'll make an example. The Afrikaners, when they took over from the British, they made sure that they support everything that is Afrikaner. Culturally, socially, economically.
The Boer.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were there to support. They even risked billions so that, you know, an Afrikaner survives. That is why, you know, they are almost at par with the British. The British are always the owners, but they, in terms of the economy, we are the worst in our own country. So I don't understand why government, when they took over, you know, from, you know, 94, why didn't they put such systems? Because they were not supposed to reinvent any wheel. The blueprint was there from the Afrikaners. They were just supposed to support us. You know, right from a school.
They build their universities.
That's it.
Build their banks.
Come up with content, African-centered content. You can't then depend, you know, because I always say, which is the education, you know, white people's education, it's the education for children. Why? Because it focuses on everything that has manifested. It has nothing, you know, it doesn't recognize the causal plane. You know, that plane of the spirits, where everything before it manifests, it starts. So this is where our, you know, our leaders were. You know, in terms of understanding life, there's a spirit, you know, before there's this apple
material
or banana or whatever. You know, so for me to be able to understand the apple or banana, I need to understand the causal plane. You know, what caused, what spirits were involved before this thing, you know, is actually.
When you come back after the break, Mkhulu Nsingiza here is heating up the engines here. Cause and effect. What has brought us here? We need to recognize the spirit behind the material. Don't go away. We'll be back right after the break.
Hello. The fourth industrial technology era has forcefully changed how every profession has been working for its clients. The world has become smaller than what we used to think. Imagine the ease of talking to a person who is in Australia, China, or Germany while you are in South Africa, as if you're just next door. The ease that globalization and the fourth industrial technology have brought to humanity entail doing business anywhere in the world as long as you have the purpose and the means. It is our expertise as DrBabaBantu Incorporated to advise clients immigrating to South Africa on various permits and on opportunities for travelers who intend to sojourn in South Africa for a longer period of time.
Ayé náà ti kéré ju èyí tí a rò lọ. Nítorí náà ìmọ̀ wa ní ìsìlọ̀ àti òfin àgbáyé ṣe wá ní ọ́fíìsì àkókò lórí àwọn ìṣòwò ilé àti ìgbaniláyé láti gba ìwé ìrìnnà fún iṣẹ́ okòwò.
Ho DrBabaBantu Incorporated re ba eletse dinotari le basebedisi le di office tsa rena kwa Pretoria, Johannesburg le Bloemfontein. DrBabaBantu Incorporated e humanega ga bonolo go bareki ba rena. Go humana tlhagiso leseding ka botlalo re kgopela le re leletse mogala go 012 341 4187 go ba le re ngwalele lengwalo tsebile go admin@chabangu.co.za. DrBabaBantu Incorporated mo mathata a humanago tharollo.
Welcome back, welcome one, welcome all. I think this show is not yet over. We may need to actually to organize another episode. I'll leave it to the elders here to give it another shot. And I think maybe what we can do, just maybe in thought pattern, we've done men today. We may want to do women the other day. We may want to do children the other day.
Definitely.
We may want to do education the other day. And maybe just slowly begin to maximize on our capacity to educate the community.
Exactly.
So I don't think we've done justice. But I would want you to maybe to take us through the last 15 minutes of the show, maybe some of the key questions that you had on the issue of developing manhood in the 21st century.
You know, I'm very happy with where the conversation is going, but I think we also need to get further because we have agreed that we are led by people we cannot trust, led by people who don't have our interest at heart, and that has become the norm. And that has become what we expect from politicians, that has become what we expect from government, to the extent that I find myself not really expecting much in the space. You talked about African-centered education, talked about good values, talked about knowing our history. I no longer expect that from government across the continent. And if there is a voice that speaks a little bit different, I still get suspicious. There must be...
What's the catch?
Yeah, you probably just speak like... Because you realize that there are more people who listen to that language right now. But I'm not sure if you really mean what you are saying. So... where should we then take power for? Because if we're going to sit and wait for government to change, or maybe we are the ones who need to change the government, how do we change the power structure? Because we seem to be controlled by and victimized by a power structure that really is exhausting and killing us.
I think the first thing, we need to mobilize our people so that we are able to assist them in terms of decolonizing the mind.
Right.
Because there's no other program that will actually succeed with a colonized mindset. We mobilize, we decolonize the mind. Then, you know, what we then need to do, because the most important thing, what, you know, is holding us back, is that lack of economic muscle.
Sure.
And we don't need government for that. The unity we need outside politics is for us to be able to implement economic programs that will be supported by everybody. When we start a bakery, you know, like a Kemet, you know, bakery, it must be all over, you know, the country. And it must be a bakery where a black person is obliged. They have no option but to support. You know, because that will be the biggest bakery. Then you come up with millimeter. Most of the things that we consume, you know, it's a question. We must own
what we eat.
And we don't need government to do that. You know, all we need is the infrastructure, you know, the land. You know, some of the land is there, but it's being misused. Because if you were to aggregate all these townships in South Africa, that's a massive buying power. You know, we keep complaining about our poverty, and, you know, the poverty, something that brings us poverty these days, it's our minds.
Absolutely.
Because if we're operating like normal people, we wouldn't be in this condition. I mean, how can a majority in their own country suffer?
At the hands of
to
the
be
minority.
worse off. You know, in terms of social, economically. So we need to clean the mind, you know, reprogram the mind, so that you return to your royalty. We are not a democrat, man. You are of royalty. Royal blood runs in your veins. You need to return to that. Then you are able to feed and clothe yourself. Then there's a, you know, long-term solution for a black person. So what is killing us is these divisions that we have. We are divided in terms. The other day, you know, yesterday, one of the people even said, even soccer divides us. You know, the way Pirates people hate Kaizer Chiefs. So politics,
fist fights.
Politics is worse. Politics is divisive by nature. So we need to move away from that. You know, it has failed us. So we need to work towards mobilizing people to unite, so that we are able to create that critical, you know, power, you know, as a collective. Yes,
these are powerful words, Mkhulu. Mobilize, decolonize. Maponga, are we ready?
I want to add on what Mkhulu is saying, which is very, very profound. I'll start off with a comment on top that says the colonial system depends on the colonized to support their slavery. That's the first one. And what Mkhulu is saying, he's not advocating for violence. We just need to create a parallel system.
That's all.
So these guys are doing their banking.
That's it.
They're doing their their bakeries.
Yes.
They are selling us their tinned beans. They're selling us their beef. Then they're milking and siphoning. They're selling us. They're selling their clothes and milking billions of hard-earned cash. Spend a whole month working, only to come at the end of the month and you take all the money that you have worked for back again to the same system that is colonizing. What Mkhulu is saying is, let's create small parallel systems and start eating away the cake by by mobilizing ourselves towards indigenous business. Look at yourself. Look at yourselves.
That's it.
But the day the Chinese know how to do this,
exactly.
close of
Yeah.
business.
You know, sure.
Absolutely.
You'll find them stuck in town. So how about we start saying we take away bread, because we eat that on every day.
Ish.
We take away milk. That's for us every day. We take away fuel. We only pour our fuel in our garages. That's another day.
Yes.
Ultimately, stockfellas, let's do community banks. Tell me that after 10, 15 years.
Oh, we're gone, man.
People can mess up.
And
mess
by
it
the
up
way,
same way.
immediately you have money.
Yeah.
Then you have power to influence politics.
No, sure.
Because right now we are a non-entity. Have you heard the government talk about us? The indigent, the unemployed, the poor. That's the name they've given to the country.
True.
And you wonder, how do you say that to the owners of the land and you call them indigent? In another meeting, they actually call them the unbankable.
Exactly. Yeah. True. True. So, Maponga, are we ready? Because we get the picture of what must be done, and that what we are living now is not right. It doesn't take us anywhere. But we seem to be so fearful of
I want
stepping
Mkhulu
out
to
of what
respond first. We have exactly
need to do.
4 minutes left. I want Mkhulu to go first. I want you to go first. Then I'll put the final remark,
Okay,
and we close the show.
No, we are ready.
Okay.
You see, especially the youth. The youth are hungry.
You have taken words out of
They
my
are
mouth.
hungry. So our focus should be the youth.
Sure.
Because sometimes we put more effort on the elders, and the elders,
Are tired.
Exactly.
they tired.
Exactly,
They don't have the energy.
True.
So what we normally say in our lectures is that the future leaders, they must know, Gucci, they cannot rule Africa with an ego. They need to understand how to connect to that energy. And what then brings or the foundation of that African spirituality, it's our calendar. Because once you understand the African calendar, that is the basis of your spirituality. And the calendar, it's also the basis of any religious doctrine.
Sure.
Why? Because the proximity of earth, and the sun.
Sure.
This is what makes certain energies prevalent at a particular time. So you need to know how to connect with those energies.
Right.
So the African calendar is the foundation of everything.
Sure.
If we can get our people to re-adopt their own calendar, then we are halfway there.
That is Mkhulu Nsingiza. It is actually written an African calendar. And I think we still have that appointment outstanding.
Sure.
That you come and do a full presentation on the African calendar. That affects our agriculture, that affects our religion, that affects our spirituality. And there's no way you can understand African spirituality without a calendar. Your closing remarks in that day.
No,
and you took a leave today. Huh? You decided to become the interviewer yourself.
I'm just putting people in the hot seat
I thought
today.
you were supposed to.
No, Baba, I want you to say something to young men, because I'm so happy you brought up youth, and there are young men sitting listening right now and thinking, this makes sense. I want to be that man who helps us to go to that level. Where do I start?
You're asking me?
Yes. What do we say
I wanted
to young
your closing
men?
remarks.
I want you to hear from you. What do young men? What should young men do?
The young men, I think, they need to learn from the elephant. The elephant, the older matriarch elephant, who has walked the bushes for a couple of years, and they also learn from their older ones. The patterns where water can be found, the road where you walk and you avoid the other strange animals, and the young ones who must know that are on the edges of this forest, on the edges of this trail, there are lions, there are tigers, there are hyenas who are waiting for any young thing to fall on the ground, and it's eaten. So according to the elephants, the young elephants, they don't run in front of the old matriarchs. They don't run at the back of the old matriarch. They run between the legs, almost to the shoulder, and constantly rubbing shoulders with the bigger matriarch. Come the time when they must be crossing a river, the young one must actually sometimes entangle his tusk next to the mother, and you cross rivers. I cannot say it better than that. If the old people, young people, feel that there's a gap between us and the young people. I insulted one kid one time who came to me and says, my mother-in-law I don't understand my mother-in-law. Say, what's wrong with your mother-in-law? She is like this, she is like this. That woman is from hell. I said, how old are you? I'm 30 years old. Okay, good news. How old is your mother-in-law? She's about 60 years old. How many degrees do you have? I have a master's. How many degrees does she have? She never went to school. I said, stop right there. Now, if you're supposed to be the one who is more educated than this old woman, and you did psychology, you did behavioral change, you did conflict resolution, you even sat to school and you wrote exams. And for the first time you come face to face with conflict in your own home, and your education has become useless. My advice to young people, learn from the animals. Stay in the armpits of the older men. They know this path. We've been here, guys, we've been here. We were young also. Some of us were slightly smarter than you when we were young. So don't try to play, surprised. Don't try to play tricks, man. We've been on this road. We've been on this road. We know when you say you're going there and you're going there. We understand these things. Sure. Take advice from each other. Let's grow from each other. With me tonight, this was a hot discussion here. Mkhulu Nsingiza on the extreme right there. He's going to come back with the GEC news in your calendar. Yes, take us through the seasons. What month is this, Mkhulu?
This is the season of Heter Umvundisikazi. What happens this month? Remember that in September we've put in the seeds.
Yes.
Now, manje is katsokuthi ziqhume. That energy that makes them
Put a full stop right there.
Yes.
In other words, you must learn, even when you're doing business, when to plant. Because while you're planting on the ground, the energies and the proximity of earth to the greater energy is the same. If you notice, you cannot sign too many good deals in June. It's cold. Who wants to risk their money? Sure. But when things begin to bloom and things start moving, it's amazing. I mean, I have experienced that in my own life. Yeah. And here we are with Mkhulu Nsingiza. I think that was just a snippet of saying this month is the month where stuff is germinating. Yes. If you don't believe that, give me a call after the show. Stuff is germinating right here. I can't give you some of the stuff to mess up your head. And with me here, Mkhulu Buntu, we are doing a fantastic job. We're doing a fantastic job. We want to compliment you. We want to thank you. Mkhulu, I just came from Durban. I will make one for you. I owe you one. I will personally put my hands and make another one for you. Me, your host on the show, Maponga J P2. Matanda novora vijibwe chiteza chino kubwa na manga varipedwa ntambana cho mtambo ruparo wareva na mshamba negore mponango kubwa na masha kumagaro chiramba kusesera chirana na wana vanji we don't meet you so say mwana wa mchena until we see you again. Don't do what I wouldn't do. If you decide to do it better.